This is just impossible. Hold on. Got some notes here. What did I want to say? Alright, so if it's not obvious already, this is a really hard video for me to make. I'm done living in a van. Well, at least after this week, I'll be done living in a van full time. I signed a lease a couple days ago, and long story short is it's just time to do something else. But I'll get into that. I don't even know where to start, so I guess I'll start at where I left things off. What was that, like 6 months ago when I took my hiatus? And at that time, I was really struggling, and I was struggling with something big. And I think I've more come to terms with it now, but it's still hard to let go of. And I haven't told anyone this before because it's crazy, and I've always known it was crazy. But when I started planning this 5 years ago, I set a goal for myself to live in the Transit Connect, the first van I bought. I wanted to live in that van for 10 years. And in addition, I was going to solely fund myself for those 10 years by being a YouTuber. And that was my goal, and I thought that I could achieve that. It quickly became obvious that I could not stand living in that tiny van for 10 years, but I still held on to that goal of becoming a so-called successful YouTuber, and I promised myself that I would do it. And I think what really stings and was really getting to me is the fact that all of the pieces were there. I have very little doubt in my mind that I could have done it, but for whatever reason, I had a hard time maintaining focus and just getting the pieces together and the consistency. And since I went on my hiatus, I've been officially diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm not throwing that out there as an excuse, but it sure as hell explains a lot of things that have happened to me in my life, and might explain why I wanted to live in a van for 10 years in the first place rather than working. So ultimately, this journey has given me the time and space to learn a lot about myself. And that's something that I will have with me for the rest of my life. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm just trying to focus on the positives here, but I can't not mention that, because even though that was really hard for me, it's also a really important lesson that you shouldn't make promises to yourself that you may not be able to keep. That said, I am so grateful for this experience. I'm so grateful that I have the ability to be out here right now, that I had the ability to buy 2 vans and all the materials, and at the same time I was able to take the time to travel and really enjoy being out here and really immerse myself in this way of life. I mean, very, very few people have that opportunity, and I don't know why I am so lucky. I don't necessarily want this to turn into a conversation about privilege, but I am very privileged to be out here, and I don't take that lightly. So anyways, after I went on hiatus, I went to Utah. I spent most of the spring in Utah, and I was hiking along this beautiful canyon, and it was later in the day. The lighting was perfect, the clouds were fluffy and happy, and I was walking along, and I was anxious. I was anxious as hell, because I was like, ooh, this is money. That's all I could think about, is how I could turn that hike into something beautiful to share on YouTube, and how I could be capturing it. And I realized during that hike that is a really bad thing, because in the past, hiking is kind of like the one thing that's kept me grounded. And I think part of the reason why I felt the need to go on hiatus is because I had lost that. And I didn't even realize it. But all of my best and most interesting hikes I've tried to film over the last 3.5 years. And that kind of sucks. It's all right, but moving the camera and thinking about shots, it really takes you out of the moment, and it kind of removes the therapeutic effect of going for hikes. And so what I've realized is that I can't do that anymore. Hiking has to remain a sacred activity for me. And so that was one big thing I've realized since I've talked to you guys last. And the other thing is that I don't really like being a vlogger. Lots of big YouTubers say that it's something that you can't do forever. Like the most successful channels that have been on the platform for 15 years, they make their content about something else. So like they'll make it about tech or camping, but it's not about them. And so I knew that going into this. I knew that that wasn't recommended, but I felt like I could strike a balance, and really I can't. There are certain aspects of my personal life that I do regret putting out there, and this is going to be my last talking to the camera style vlog. So from here on out, it's going to be more technical stuff. There might be some adventures. I have some couple ideas for some adventures, and like if you look at my last video where I went and got snowed in, actually at this exact campsite, that's a video that I'm more comfortable making. And honestly, I hate to say it, but that video was super low effort. I knew I was going to get stuck up here, and I was like, well, I might as well just film. And that's probably the only video I've made where the time put in and the money I got back from it was actually comparable to a real wage. So that was really cool. Obviously, my van tour videos have made a lot of money, but I also had to spend a lot of money on the van so that I could make that video. It's not like I can just make those once a week, if that makes sense. So anyways, yeah, I can't do it anymore. I can't be a van life YouTuber for a number of reasons. I have to say that, like, mentally, I'm in a better place than I think I've ever been. Taking a break from working has helped me learn a lot about myself, and just having the time and space to breathe. I think the most important thing that I've learned is how to slow down. So I was always trying to cram as much activity as I possibly could in my limited amount of free time when I was working. And what I've realized is that I wasn't really having a whole lot of fun doing that. It was stressful. It was stressful trying to get out and have an experience and then get back. And it's tough because work sucks and you don't want your whole life to be work, but I was pushing too hard to do too many things outside of work. So anyways, I thought I would have a whole lot more to talk about, but I feel like that's pretty much it. It's been a hell of a ride. I just can't... I get really sentimental about these things, and yeah, I'm gonna close this video out the only way I know how, with a music montage. So, oh, and I can't believe I almost forgot. To everyone who's liked and subscribed and commented along the way, who's cheered me on, thank you so much. And to everyone who's supported me on Patreon, my patrons, you guys are amazing. Okay, I think that's enough. Thank you all. It's, again, it's been a hell of a journey. Hey everyone, so it's been a couple months since I recorded that video in the van, and there's just a few things that I want to clarify, I guess. I actually considered just throwing out all of that footage, but one of my goals when I started this channel was to be authentic, and I feel like that video is, if nothing else, authentic. It's a little scary because it feels vulnerable for me, but at any rate, one thing I wanted to mention is that a big factor in me choosing to not live in a van anymore has been my health. And I think overall my health is good. I've been living in a house. I moved in here about a month ago, and then I was living with my parents a good amount before that. And living in a house, I've noticed that my health is improving quite a lot. I don't want to get into specifics, but it's hard in a van because you don't have a whole lot of control over your environment. So there you don't have a control over the temperature, the humidity. It can be really dusty, and then also the fridge is really small. And then like especially in my van, I couldn't like stand up. I can't like stand up and stretch my arms above my head in there and like move around. I couldn't do yoga every morning, for example. And so in a house, it's just easier to build and maintain healthy routines. And I have no regrets signing a lease and moving back into a regular house. I know a lot of YouTubers, after they do the van life thing, they go down the path of like building an off grid cabin, and that sounds brutal. So I'm happy to be back on the grid, part of the system, another cog in the machine, whatever you want to call it. The truth is, this way of life, living in a house, is easy and healthy and good in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to mention that because I feel like a lot of YouTubers, especially, they over glamorize the van life lifestyle. And looking at that montage, I do miss the views. I do miss the excitement of exploring new places, but I can't keep that up indefinitely. And I still plan to travel a lot. And I do think I will post on this channel again. I can't remember if I mentioned that before, but it might be a while. I don't really know what this channel is going to look like. So yeah, we'll see on that. That's, I think, everything I wanted to say. I guess I wanted to thank everyone who's watched my videos, even if you don't comment or like or whatever. You know, just being here, knowing that I have so many people watching me on this journey has been really humbling in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's really cool that people care. And it, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that all I've done is travel around in a van and film myself do it, and so many people have followed it along the way, and so many people have supported me in so many different ways. And so for that, I just wanted to say a great big final thank you. It's really been great. It's been a wonderful experience, and it's something I will take with me for the rest of my life. So that's all.